So hello everyone, welcome to the most requested video which is on clinical data management. So in this particular video we will look at the CDM fundamentals. We will also look at how the data flows into clinical trial and what clinical data management plays a role in it, as well as we'll look into the interview questions of clinical data management and how you can crack, along with what is the salary or compensation in clinical research. Without wasting any further time, let's begin. So the key focus areas of this session would be: we'll understand what is clinical data management, then we'll move on to data flow in clinical data management, where we will understand how the data flows from one stakeholders to another and how it plays an important role in clinical research. Then we will look into the CDM interview questions. We will look at the basic questions of CDM and then CDM specific questions, which will be able to help you in cracking CDM interviews. Finally, we will be looking at what is the salary in CDM and what can you expect once you enter this field. Now let us understand what exactly is clinical data management. Before we begin, make sure that you subscribe to this channel so that it provides me motivation to create quality videos. Let's begin. So clinical data management is the process of collecting and managing the research data, which is clinical research data, in accordance to the regulatory standards to obtain a quality information that is complete and error free. So in clinical data management, we manage or collect the research data, which is the clinical research data, and it is in accordance to the regulatory standards. So we will only collect data that is authorized by the regulatory authority, and how that data should be: the data should be of quality, as well as that data should be complete and error free. Okay, so this is a holistic definition of clinical data management. Next thing is, what is the goal of clinical data management? This is the fundamental question that they will ask you. So the goal of clinical data management is to gather as much as data as possible for analysis, and this particular data should adhere to the federal, state and local regulations. Okay, so you cannot be collecting all kinds of data, but only that data that is pertinent to your research and that is allowed by the federal, state or the local regulations. Next would be, the inherent goal of clinical data management is to produce data of a certain quality. Okay, so why? So data is collected throughout the clinical research, but why do you need clinical data management? That is to have a quality parameters to ensure that whatever data is being collected is of a certain quality. If there are any errors, then data management would rectify them and would put certain checks and balances to collect quality data. So that is clinical data management. Now let us understand what is data flow in clinical data management, because it is very important for you to understand how the data is collected and how it flows from one stakeholders to other, leading to the final submission to the regulatory authorities. Okay, so in this particular image you can see the data flow in clinical data management. So first of all, you need to design a particular protocol in which you define what kind of data would be collected and who are involved in this particular activity: data manager, database engineers, data entry associate, medical coder and quality control associate. So these guys are involved in collecting data, rectifying data and managing the data. So first and foremost, we will create a protocol design. Then we will design a data management plan in which we clearly write what kind of data is to be collected, how are we going to manage it, and why is it required in clinical research, and what role would it play. Once the data management plan is finalized, we move on to case report form design. Okay, so we will create form which would require certain data to be entered. Then we will create a database design, and this database would collect all the data. Okay, once the trial begins, we have data capture where the data would be entered and captured. Once the data is captured, there would be certain kind of errors in that data. We run quality control, we run data validation in them, and once all the data is resolved, we achieve the database lock. Once the database lock is achieved, you cannot enter or modify the data. That is database lock. Once all the data has been cleaned and it is being logged, it is sent to statistical analysis where your SAS software is used and that comes into play. Once the statistical analysis has been completed, you get a certain data format or certain data analysis which clearly tells you that how the clinical trial went and what is the quality outcome, which is then reported, okay, to the regulatory authority, and then that final data is published. Okay, so if anyone asks you how the data flows in clinical trials and how the data is managed at various stages, this should be your flow of answer. Now the next step would be, once you are into clinical data management, what would be the interview questions in it? What can you expect? So let's begin. So first and foremost, there would be a certain basic question for clinical data management, and these questions are very similar to clinical research operations as well as pharmacovigilance. So first they will ask you about what is clinical trial or clinical research, then different phases of clinical trial, along with historical events such as Nuremberg trial, Declaration of Helsinki, Tuskegee syphilis study. Along with, they will ask you what are adverse event and serious adverse event, then terminologies such as placebo, masking, blinding. Okay, you should be well versed with them. Then what is a patient file or a subject file, and what information would you find in a particular patient file? Then ICH-GCP principle along with Declaration of Helsinki. Now latest we have the E6R3. Okay, so all of you haven't seen E6R3, I've posted a video, just go and check it out. Now we'll also see how is safety ensured in clinical trial. Okay, so this particular questions that would compile to basic question of clinical data management. Now let us look at CDM specific interview questions. So first and foremost, they would ask you the definition of clinical data management and what role does it play in clinical research. Once you are aware with that, they will ask you about the role of data in clinical research and what is its application in entire CDM process. So you have to explain the entire pictorial representation, which I explained in a few time ago. Okay, then they will ask you regarding clinical data management plan. So what is a data management plan? What are the components of it? Why is a data management plan required? Following that, they will ask you attributes of the data, which includes in the Alcoa principles. So again, I've made a video on Alcoa. You can go and check it out. That is very critical in CDM. They will ask you about various guidelines for clinical data management, how the data should be adhered to according to US FDA, according to your regulatory authority, as well as questions such as how do you reduce the inaccuracy of data, how data reporting should be. And once you are at data validation process, then what is the role of statistical analysis, how SAS runs, and how that would be helpful in the outcome of the clinical trial. Finally, there would be questions such as, if you are in a data management role, then what your role is of prominence in clinical trial, what does a data manager do? So you should be well aware of all these questions, and you would find that answers to this question would make you very capable of cracking clinical research or clinical data management specific interviews. Now finally, a lot of students are interested in knowing what is the salary or compensation in clinical data management. So when it comes to compensation, so there are compensation for various role. If you are at a fresher role, which is clinical data analyst, your salary is somewhere around 2.5 to 4 lakhs. Once you move ahead into clinical data specialist role, the salary range is around 4 to 6 lakhs per annum. And once there is a senior data specialist role, the salary moves upwards to 8 to 12 lakhs per annum. And finally, the salary of clinical data manager, sorry, would be anywhere around 12 to 20 lakhs per annum. Now, please note, these salary that I have taken is an average of various range from various companies, websites, my colleagues in clinical research and clinical data management. So this is an average range. So it would give you a rough estimate that what you can expect at a particular role. So thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, make sure that you like, share and subscribe with your colleagues and let them help and grow in their career. And thank you for watching this video.